Chapter 12. Restoration. It's been 6 months since Enkidu and the magicians defeated the invading force of the Sakari army. Rebuilding the city has been a daunting task. Little supplies left intact have forced most of those with remaining resources to migrate from the city, to purchase dwellings in their neighbors of Muria, Ramash, and Samsara for fractions of the cost it would take to build their homes anew. Enkidu cannot really blame them, but to him, Kataltakuk has always been his home, and he will remain loyal. The first of the yearlings promised by Naya are collected gratefully, and with the help of the maidens of Fee, crops that normally would take much longer to grow are already close to yielding food. Still, this is not enough to support the city in the long term. The people of Kataltakuk need shelter and protection. Their homes must be rebuilt, and the wall needs erected around them once more. A handful of Levant's soldiers stayed behind well after their fellows left in order to help keep the survivors protected from the tribes of bandits and marauders that periodically come down from the mountains. With their own resources tapped, they too have begun to return home and leave Kataltakuk to those most faithful to it. It was not until they left that Kataltakuk was moved upon by the Shish, but luckily, the brothers of Elamaches were able to stave off what could have been a devastating siege. Very few of the buildings in the city remain intact enough to be habitable, other than the few holes in the walls from stray explosions. The home of Tannen acts as the current gathering place of Kataltakuk's governing body. Rather than entrusting the decisions of the city to elders, anyone who wishes to have their voice heard is now welcome to sit among the group and give their opinion. Drinking deeply of his ale, Enkidu contemplates their next move and the immediate future of the city. Even with the magic of the priestesses of Fee, we are going to run out of food faster than it can be grown, a farmer named Shedior says. The priestesses guarantee that the time until harvest will be drastically lowered each time, but our stores will still become depleted faster than they can be filled, Tannen adds. How much longer do we have until our current stores are fully depleted? Enkidu asks, completely stressed. Problems one can solve with a sword are the type he prefers. No more than a month, Tannen sighs. And that is with severe rationing. And after harvest, how much time does that buy us? Only a season or so, but we will not be able to put aside any to store, which will starve us later in the year. We must also hold true to our promise to Naya. Tarvin, son of Tannen, speaks up. We owe them feed equal to the weight of the yearlings. Who made that kind of promise? Shedior shouts. We do not have enough food to feed our own people. How can we be promising food to other cities? Put all livestock and horses under full guard. When hunger sets in, people will become desperate and dangerous, Enkidu says. I thought the priestesses were going to teach that woman from Tug their green magic. Yalagab is working hard to learn all that the priestesses have to impart, but without a natural gift from magic, it is hard for people to just pick it up. Affinity for magic takes many years to master, Enkidu says. Even I am a novice after training with the priests and Master Hoyles. So what good have those priestesses done for Kataltakuk? Baron growls with irritation. They give us one harvest, and after that we go back to starving. The way you propped them up, I expected them to turn our city into a veritable jungle of vegetables that would last us for decades. It is a long process, Enkidu says. I do not fully understand it myself, but they swear that after the first few seasons, our crops will continue to grow back healthier and more plentiful. We cannot wait several more harvests, Tannen admits. We need food stores to last until then. And besides, our time with the priestesses is nearly finished. We will have to return them to Samsara soon. I am not confident that Yarlagab will have learned enough to take over their work by then. We've depleted the aid of all of our neighbors, a man named Jaelil says. What more is there for us to do but abandon this dying city? Not all of the neighboring lands have been visited, Tannen says, looking over at Enkidu, whose expression becomes grim. We have not yet asked Dwarka for assistance. The journey to Dwarka is too long and unreliable, Enkidu speaks up. We were gone for nearly a month before, and Dwarka is several more days beyond even that. If our fastest rider pushed himself to the brink of death, it would still be over a month before he returned. Then we do not have any time to spare, Baron says. We have food for a month, and it will take roughly that long to bring us aid. I do not see any other option. It is a waste of what little resources we have left. Supplying a rider for that long a journey takes away from our already dwindling stores. There must be another way, Enkidu argues. Whoever is making the trip will need to eat whether they are within the city or not. At least attempting to gain aid for us is better than sitting by and doing nothing, Baron argues back. What of magic? Tannen asks. Is there not some spell that can multiply our food stores? If there is a spell, I know it not. Both Fausto and Ismail were far more knowledgeable than I, Enkidu says. And Ismail's apprentice, how skilled is that boy? Simeon was taught only enough to be useful as an apprentice. Anything more advanced would not have been known to him for several years, Enkidu admits with regret. That is unfortunate for all of us, Baron says with a loud sigh. We traded two great magicians for only a slightly delayed demise. Did not magicians survive from the other cities? Could they not be asked for aid? Surely one of them has the skills to assist us in our time of need, Elder Tiao asks. Our relationship with Refugio of Levant is not on the best of terms. Some in our city had a fundamental disagreement with his intentions regarding the surviving demon invaders, Baron says, eyeing Enkidu with scorn. I do not think Refugio cares what befalls our city any longer. We could force him to help us, Jaelil says. Send our strongest men to Levant and abduct the magician. And what if Refugio fights back and all of our men are killed? Or what if Levant takes our aggression as an act of war? Our city cannot survive another assault, Tannen says, shooting the option down immediately. Do we not have our own Sakari still imprisoned? Why not get use out of them? What other reason are we keeping them alive? Surely not even Levant would be able to stop our attack if we are backed up by warriors such as they. That kind of violence shall not solve our problems. I shall take Simeon with me, and we shall speak with Refugio personally. Perhaps diplomacy can garner us more favor, Tannen says. In the meantime, we should not count on the aid of magicians for our survival. Dwarka shall be petitioned for assistance, Baron adds. Enkidu grumbles underneath his breath. He feels that the aid of a city known widely for its immorality and depravity will only taint them as well. Dwarka worships the serpent and gives their children over to the flames. We cannot accept anything from them. Not only will we ask for their help, Tannen says, but it shall be you that does so. Our city is dying, and you need to put aside your personal opinions of Dwarka and look out for the preservation of your people. Tarvin has told me all about how you were able to show mercy to the people of Tug, and display nothing but kindness for the people of Samsara. Why should you treat the people of Dwarka any differently? Dying with our souls intact is preferable to becoming touched by Dwarka's sickness. The evil of Tug, due to Mammon, is nothing compared to the horrors of Dwarka. Then who better to go than a man less likely to be corrupted by their evil? Baron laughs. I agree that Enkidu is the perfect choice. Enkidu grinds his teeth together in anger. No man is above the corruption of the flesh. I do not think of myself greater or stronger than anyone else. But you are more knowledgeable of the dangers of that city, making you the ideal candidate to go, Tannen adds. I am the last person who should go to Dwarka, Enkidu shouts, losing his cool. Any kin of the Eridae clan remaining surely thirst for my blood. You will not go alone. My son learned a great deal from you from your time together, and his personal skills will hopefully get you out of any difficulties your presence would bring to Dwarka, Tannen says. I too will go, a female voice speaks up. Everyone turns to see the young Lianlim standing in the doorway. We appreciate your spirit and duty to your city, but you have not yet had enough time to recover. Sending you right back out on a journey so soon would only be sealing your death, Baron says. Have I not proven that I am difficult to kill? If Dwarka is as dangerous as Enkidu says, he will need my support. I owe my life to those two. Where they go, so too shall I. Enkidu? Tannen asks. If she believes she is healed enough, then her bow is welcome at our side, Enkidu says with a sigh, accepting his fate and the inevitability of returning to Dwarka. Lianlim grins. Any disrespect for the hero of Katatakuk stripped away the moment of her rescue. Forever in Enkidu's debt, she intends to make herself as useful as possible and not be seen as any kind of hindrance. Do you think they will loan us the material or the money to secure the supplies? We have nothing really to offer them, Tannen asks. The Dwarken lenders will smell a good deal when they hear our proposal. Do not worry, Tannen reassures his son. When you last went to Dwarka, I heard they tried to kill you, Tarvin says to Enkidu. Are you sure you wish to come with me? Enkidu asks. I will not fault you for backing away. Dwarka can be a frightening place. I can withstand a few naked women. I am not some hormone-ruled youth any longer, Tarvin laughs. It will not just be the sexual temptations that you encounter. Because all cultures come together in Dwarka for trade, they bring their gods with them. The city is home to nearly 100 so-called gods, and is filled with dark magics and sorcery, fortune-tellers, spiritualists, corpse channelers. All manner of darkness dwells in that city. Enkidu appears as if he is going to be sick just thinking about the city. In Dwarka, nothing is sacred or holy. Men lie with men as women. They take their own father's daughters to their beds. They are intimate with the livestock and even make their children walk through the flames. In many of the religions of the area, child sacrifice is commonplace. But in Dwarka, they are free to practice this abhorrence together in the open without fear of reproach. My father and uncles have warned me many times of the dangers of foreign beliefs. It's been decades since they were last at the city, but they speak of it as distastefully as you. I do not see how it can be as bad as you describe. No, it is much worse. The serpent dominates the city, and his evil knows no limits. In Dwarka, they sacrifice their people to the serpent's jaws, just as the Ammonites and the Tug sent theirs to the fire. They fornicate in mass orgies, even as people are killed all around them. There is no fouler place in the world. Baron interrupts them, walking up with a look of irritation obvious on his face. Enkidu has tried to avoid him, but he has nowhere to go out here in the open. I wish you both a safe and fruitful journey. Baron says, patting Enkidu's shoulder and handing him a bag of dried dates and nuts for their trip. He tries not to cringe at the man's touch. The fate of our city depends on you. Baron pauses, and Enkidu knows he only wishes to bring up old matters. Are you sure you do not wish for me to handle our negotiations? I believe Dwarka would give us anything in exchange for one of our prisoners. As I told you before, it is not right to buy and sell using intelligent life as currency. They may believe in slavery in Levant or even Dwarka, but no man has ever owned another in Kataltakuk since our founding. I will secure us a loan with enough repayment time to get our crops reestablished and our buildings restored. Once the city is rebuilt, we can devote our efforts to eliminating our debt to Dwarka. Had other respected citizens such as Kansiak or Tannen not spoken out against Baron's plan, he would be on his way to Dwarka with one of the Sicarii in tow already. The city leadership believed that the creatures are a weapon and cannot just be handed over out to their neighbors without being prepared to be on the receiving end of them one day. Kataltakuk may not consider their neighboring cities as enemies, but in a competition for scarce resources, that mindset may change quickly. We will be gone only long enough to secure what we need in return. We shall not tarry in that swamp of sin any longer than necessary. Enkidu turns towards Tarvin and Lanlim. Get your rest tonight. We shall depart at dawn. Instead of shackles, the Sicarii captives wander freely about their cavern prison, restricted only by a barred entrance. Completely healed, Azria's face sports a thin scar from his right eye down to his bottom lip. Dark red hair is braided behind his back, and he seems to have a presence about him that the other Sicarii prisoners lack. Anything Azria orders, the soldiers do without question, despite him never having held a military rank over them. The human baron seeks to trade one of us to his neighboring kingdoms for the honor of marrying one of its princesses, Azria reports with a devilish grin. Whichever of you is selected, play the comical fool. Do not seem frightening or intimidating. When the time is right, kill all of them and return here, so that together we may slaughter every monkey within this damned city. He licks his lips with anticipation. Feel free to bring us a few of those princesses to enjoy. Among all of the Sicarii to come through the portal, none are more deviant and twisted than the thief in Azria. While his fellows were pillaging the city, he was taking his time torturing and killing as many human women and children as he could find. Baron approaches the prison, and a guard with him carries several bowls of stewed pork. The Sicarii as a whole do not seem to care much for vegetables or grain-based food products. Their entire race is primarily carnivorous in nature, as opposed to humanity's highly omnivorous and opportunistic feeding strategy. Have you found use for your gift yet, master? Azria asks, feigning subservience. I understand not Yazatan's scribblings. Baron draws his sword. I am thinking that your death is far more interesting to me than continuing to try and sort through that mess. There are many scholars among your race, no? Perhaps you could trade the book for something more valuable. I hear that Levant has a female of ours in captivity. A female, you say? Baron pauses, thinking on that for a moment. With her, I could breed an elite class of warriors to be sold for countless treasures. Azria finds the man's predictability amusing, but he hopes the rumors of a female surviving Sicarii are true. Without a female, a new population of their species can never be established in the Kishar realm. Baron spins on his heels, leaving to begin communications with Levant. If successful, Azria hopes that he can accomplish from within what the invading army was unable to do. Jiangshun, capital of the Jiangshang Empire. Within the royal palace of Emperor Osisto, envoys from the country of Ethion arrived to discuss the many concerning changes occurring in the city of Dwarka. Once the primary consumer of goods from both lands, Ethion and Jiangsheng, exported nearly 60% of their economies. When the merchant ships stopped returning, leadership from both lands grew concerned, sending scout ships from their cities to Dwarka to investigate. What they learned, coupled with the testimonies of the few crews that managed to return alive, painted a disturbing picture of a city increasingly falling into the depths of religious fanaticism. The moment our ships were attacked, Dwarka declared war on the Empire, says the highest-ranking military commander of the Jiangsheng Empire, Sarujin. We have always recognized our ships as extensions of our sovereign soil. Anyone committing crimes aboard a Jiangsheng ship is the very same as committing that crime here in Jiangshun. The priesthood of the serpent were not the authority in Dwarka when our ships were attacked, Sisto says. King Jojelkar had nothing to do with that. And now he is dead, and Dwarka belongs to those zealots, Sarujin growls. Whatever hope we had for diplomacy died with him. We cannot deal or aim for any kind of treaties with the serpent's devout. What stance do the Ethian kingdoms take? Osisto asks the representatives from Ethion. The country of Ethion is divided into 8 kingdoms that all share a loose alliance with each other. The central city of Ak serves as a neutral ground for all of the kingdoms, and is there that representatives meet with each other to discuss matters that are mutually beneficial to all of Ethion. One of these issues is in regards to trade. Trade deals with Dwarka involve all of Ethion, and cannot be brokered by a single kingdom. Ethion will continue to survive without Dwarka, says Mbushto, representative of the kingdom of the Cha Ethion. If not Dwarka, some other country will pick up the absence of competition. No matter what, our goods will sell. Nowhere else in the world can one find some of the splendid treasures found in Ethion. So, Ethion will ignore the problem and move on, Sarujin asks angrily. Not at all, the representative from Ukat Ethion, named Sheshabashne, says. We agree that war was declared by Dwarka. Ethion does not take such action lightly. We have already begun mobilizing naval resources to take control of the Arya Sea and form a blockade of the Serpent's Bay. We plan to cut them off from all shipping lanes and economically strangle Dwarka. If they want to intimidate our merchants and trade ships, we will force them into submission. Another Ethion representative adds. His name is Ndaluk of the Mchai Ethion. Not alone you won't, Sarujin says. Jiang Sheng has been just as harmed by Dwarka's aggression. We demand our revenge as well. Ethion cannot go at it solo. I believe there are enough spoils in Dwarka that we can all share, Mboshto says. Osisto leans forward on his throne. I can commit a few warships to assist in Ethion's blockade, if needed. But I believe that we can completely cut off Dwarka from the north by using our fleet to control the Jiang Sea. The Shella River is Dwarka's only alternative to moving supplies in and out of the city if Serpent's Bay is shut down. If we pinch them from the north and the south, Dwarka will be completely landlocked and have no way to survive an extended siege of the city. What if they are able to escape to the west and utilize the Gulf of Al-Jadin to bypass our blockade? A representative from Sa Ojai Ethion, named El Ohainaim, asks. There is no port connecting Dwarka to the Gulf, Sarujin says. They would not be able to transport their ships across that much land to reach the Gulf without a pre-established system in place. Even if some were able to escape the city, the only available ports would be in Tug, Melem, and Tizkar. Tiskar is part of the Inbute kingdom, and Melem relies on Ethion for most of its trade economy, Bushto says. Only Tug would stand to possibly gain from aiding fleeing Dwarkans. Tug does not have the numbers to be recruited to fight for Dwarka, Sarujin says. Even if they escape, the city would still fall to our combined forces. I see no faults in this strategy. Keeping their alliance with Tug would allow Dwarka to maintain trade with the mainland. Levant and Jericho would stand to gain all of the trade lost to us, and make both of those kingdoms very rich. Committing to war with us to liberate Dwarka would pay off greatly in the long run for them, Osisto says. The representatives all nod. Only a king would have such political insight. The plan is still the best one we have heard, Osisto says. With some modifications, we can remove more of the negative variables. If we fine-tune our strategies, I am confident that we completely lock down Dwarka's options and force their entire hand throughout the campaign. At the stables of Lianlim's late father Bashan, Enkidu and his youthful companions meet just before dawn to prepare for their journey to Dwarka. Enkidu and Tarvin load up their horses with enough food for the trip both there and back, for them and Lianlim. If the two men do not return quickly, without enough supplies to last until harvest time, the food stores will become empty in only another month or two. The last of the livestock, the cattle, the goats, the sheep, and swine, will be slaughtered, and then the citizens of Kataltakuk will be forced to eat their horses and donkeys. When they too are gone, the city will have no more food, and they will be forced to move elsewhere, starve. You cannot take that one, Lianlim tells Tarvin as he begins to equip a horse with supplies. Why is that? This beast served us well before. We are needing greater speed this time around. That horse is sturdy but slow. I shall select the horses best suited for our trip. Tarvin nods, stepping back from the animal. Do you really think you are healed enough to be making this journey with us? Lianlim glares at him, snatching a supply pack out of his hands. I am perfectly fine. Tarvin grabs her left forearm, causing Lianlim to scream out in pain. Your wounds are still tender. You do not need to prove your toughness to us or anyone else. Enkidu studies the girl for a moment. I will not force you to come or to go. You volunteered, so it is for you alone to decide. We will not be able to slow down to accommodate you. Kataltakuk is running out of time, and we cannot spare what little we have. If it comes to you or the city, I'm afraid that I will not hesitate to leave you behind. If you are fortunate to still be alive when we return, you may rejoin us. Lianlim nods. I would not wish to bear the guilt of my impairments, being the cause of suffering for my city. If I begin to slow down our progress, I shall remove myself from the journey, so that decision will not be forced upon you. Please protect my son, Tanin says to Enkidu. He has never been to a city that size. You know how overwhelming a place like Dwarka can be. A man can become lost in his desires, and forsake all he truly cares for. Tarvin shakes his head, embracing his father. It cannot be as bad as you say. Dwarka is a hub of all the major civilizations of the world. With so much culture and variety, one can only be better off for the experience. The naivety of the young, Tanin sighs. My son, do not let Enkidu's stubbornness prevent a deal from being made. Enkidu scowls, looking offended. Our souls are worth more than our stomachs. Then I shall allow you to explain that to the mothers as they hold their starved children as they die. Enkidu doesn't push the issue any further, knowing the elder man has a point. Instead, he clasps Tanin's arm and wishes him good health until his return. Enkidu checks the supply packs with sadness, picturing the families that will go hungry because of this excursion. Finally, he cuts their provisions in half and hands the rest over to Tannen. "Return these to the storehouse," Enkidu says. "We shall travel along the river for as long as possible, and live off of what the Uzal can provide for us." "That is a large risk you're taking," Tannen says. "What if we find no fish? Surely everyone is hurting because of the season and the raiding from the Galts and the Shish. The river may be nothing more than fingerlings at this point," Tarvin says. "Then we shall eat frogs and clams, and whatever else we can find. Is it not better for us to eat the unclean than for our people to starve? Cutting our provisions by half will allow a family to eat for an extra couple of weeks." Lianlim smiles, admiring Enkidu's heart. By traveling with the man, she hopes to learn as much as she can from him. The priesthood does not take women into their direct service, but as an assistant to a priest, maybe she would be able to accomplish a lot of good for her city. Torture at the hands of her captors, and seeing the destruction of her city has eased much of Lianlim's wildness. Now, she searches for ways that she can serve and give back to her people. Losing her father to the Sakari was difficult, but at the time she was unable to grieve. The city was under attack, and the stables had to remain protected. Using the horses that were trained by her father for years, the messengers of Kataltakuk rode out to retrieve aid from the neighboring cities. But not every rider was able to gain that assistance. The city of Tug treated Lianlim and her companions like a terrible omen, and sacrificed them to their god. She was facing her own death, and it was very close when Enkidu and Tarvin arrived. Had they not reached the city when they did, Lianlim too would have been consumed by Mammon's fires. Even now, she still does not have the time to grieve for all that she has lost. Her mother, her brothers and sisters, everyone that she cares about still faces danger. If food is not secured to replenish their stores, all of Kataltakuk will starve. She will ride as hard as she can and push herself past exhaustion to see to it that her city is saved. If aid is not found for the city, everyone that perished will have died in vain. It will take an extra day and a half to go wide around Tug, Enkidu says. We did not part them on the best of terms, and any survivors that stayed behind surely would like nothing more than to burn us in retaliation of their dead god. Well, you did kill their god and many of his followers, Tarvin says. And he killed our messengers and nearly did the same to Lianlim. They received far better than they deserved. Even so, we cannot afford unnecessary engagements, so we will have to avoid the city if at all possible. There is little cover between Tug and Dwarka, Tarvin says. It will be difficult to avoid being spotted if they are on the lookout. Enkidu unfolds a map given them by Eskil from the temple's archives. The map is old, and many of the names of areas are written exclusively in Yazatan symbols. Numerous cities that now exist are not present anywhere on the map, while there are others that are on the map that are found nowhere in the world today. We will travel along the coast. A party of only 3 is not likely to draw the attention of any maritime bandits or shish raiding vessels. Dwarka is right on the Gulf, so the coastal path should take us directly to their docks. Tarvin nods. It seems like we have a plan. We should have little difficulty for the majority of our journey. Enkidu agrees. Getting past Tug and convincing the Dwarka to help us will be our greatest challenges. Just be sure to let me do all of the talking, Tarvin says with a smile. The less we remind the Dwarka who you are, the better our chances of success will be. As they depart, Tannen, Eskil, Simeon, and Lianlim's family all see the trio to the rear gates of the city. We wish you good fortunes, and the protection of our Creator, Tannen says. May you all return to us safely. The female Sakari, Shayatina, is dressed each day in the finest silks and bathed with expensive foreign perfumes. Oils are applied to her body, causing it to glisten like sweat beads. With her fierce beauty and predatory looks, she gives off the regal visage of a large feline hunter lying in wait. She is surprised how Refugio has treated her, expecting to be kept in tattered rags and bathed only enough to keep disease from setting in. Coupling with the Sakari female is treated as an honor by the Levant, and even city officials have tried their hand at impregnation. The way she is treated, Shayatina rarely feels the full shame of being forced coupling anymore, and she is even allowed to be free of her shackles for the majority of the day. The fear of Refugio's power keeps her in line, and prevents her from doing anything reckless. So far, human seed has been incompatible with Sakari eggs, despite such similar physiology. Despite this, she still hates the humans for what they have done to her. If given the opportunity, she would slash open any of their throats. She hopes that one day she is able to get this opportunity. At first, Shayatina screamed and tried to escape forced couplings, but soon she discovered the humans, with their lack of claws, fangs, and enormous strength, make sex not nearly as violent or unpleasant. Adding to that are pampering, and Shayatina decides that, at this point, if a Sakari attempted to mate with her, she would kill him before going back to that brutality. Often, during Sakari sex, one or even sometimes both of the participants would suffer disfiguring scars or pass out from blood loss. Sex initially against her will seems less like rape to her now than the violence of her kind practicing and chosen mating. After each attempted coupling, Refugio and the other physicians enter her chambers and run a series of tests, including blood and tissue samples and feminine examinations, documenting the information and recording her recalling details of the events. Each time, Shayatina must recount each kiss, each position change, the number and strength of thrusts, even the physical details of her partners. Refugio hopes that should a successful pairing occur, he will have the accompanying information in order to duplicate the results at will. Was the last experience any different? Was anything new tried? Refugio asks, entering the chamber. His assistants immediately begin taking blood work and swabs of both vaginal and oral tissues. This is among the only times where she feels like a piece of meat, with no rights or will. He was very enthusiastic. We went multiple times, though the last two secretions were mostly water, Shayatina says, still out of breath. There is no change in her ovulation since the last inspection, one of the physicians says, inspecting her genitals, hoisting her legs up and causing her to growl suddenly. The physician is startled, but Refugio nods for him to continue his inspection. Why is it that they do not have moon blood like our females? This is one of the mysteries that I believe is preventing us from successfully hybridizing our two species. Their longer lives may also play a significant role. It could be that there are longer gaps between fertile and infertile periods. It may be that during all of our time together, she is within one of these infertile times. Because our kind are not promiscuous, we are taught that our bodies are unable to conceive until we choose a mate. We are expected to be patient. It may be a psychological trigger that affects fertility, like migration and hibernation habits in animals. The physician examining her adds, or it could be some hormone secreted by the male Sakari that initiates the process. Refugio frowns, trying to think of a solution. To him, all problems are able to be solved with proper knowledge. Maybe your soldiers should begin having relations with one of our males? Shayatina laughs. He turns towards her, not amused. I could just observe your coupling with a male Sakari. She shudders, imagining the male's claws digging into her back. That is a bad idea. You prefer human companionship to your own now? Refugio is surprised by this. Humans do not have claws, she replies, relieved that the physicians are finished with their physical examination. Hire a slave girl and send her in to one of the males. Observe the results and collect a semen sample. Refugio orders one of his soldiers standing guard at the entrance to Shayatina's chambers. It would have been far easier to have secured an accomplished mother as our test subject. Once a female breeds, she leaves service until the offspring reaches adulthood. It cannot be risked for that young's mother to be killed in battle, and that bond severed prematurely. Our testing will continue. Surely, in the course of a year, you will become fertile at least once. Refugio leaves, joining up with his physicians in his own nearby villa. Hundreds of manuscripts written on the bodies of Sicarii lie about, created through the torture and dissection of nearly 50 bodies. Pain tolerances and weaknesses are documented, as well as how much blood a Sicarii body contains and where each artery and vein is located. The Sicarii's heart is larger than a human's, and the rib cage is denser to protect it. Because of the higher levels of oxygen in Averno, the Sicarii's lungs are smaller and fail much quicker than any other organ when exposed to the atmosphere of the Earth. Do we accept that our two species are only similar in appearance and function, but incompatible for reproduction? Refugio asks. The gathered physicians are the top minds in all of Levant, and act together as part of the King's Scientific Advisory Council, with Refugio having the final say as military commander and chief magician. With the distinctions we have discovered on the bodies, there seems to be at least 4 separate races of the Sicarii. Refugio and his fellows have begun calling the invaders by the name Shayatina uses to address their species. The most common is the blue and lavender skin types. These are the ones with 2 prominent horns and a physical build similar to our own. According to Shayatina, they comprise the ruling class, and are the most representative of all the tribes. She is herself a member of this race. The physician walks around the room, picking up the whitened skull of another Sicarii, this one having many horn protrusions extending from the skull. The Sicarii's skin is covered with spikes that in life secreted powerful toxins. The second type are these with the poisonous horns. They are referred to as the Old-Faced, and are seen as barbaric and bloodthirsty even to the other Sicarii. I am aware of these differences, Refugio says, flipping to one of the manuscripts he has written on the matter. On the pages are drawings from different angles of the types of Sicarii. What is your point? I believe that perhaps one of the older, rarer races may be more similar to our shared ancestor. The dominant race may have progressed so far in evolutionary terms that interbreeding is impossible. Another physician speaks up, looking at Shayatina's information specifically. How do we know that she was not fertile to begin with? Occasionally, our own females are barren. Without other female Sicaries to test against, we have no way of being sure. No other living females were recovered. We learned a lot from the dead females we found, but we need more alive to compare against, Refugio says dismissively. He knows that no matter how hard they search, another female Sicarii will not be found. The captain of Kataltakuk's city guard has sent the king multiple message hawks, offering a trade. A trade? Why have I not heard of this before? Refugio is insulted that the king has not yet come to him with this information. He claims to have a book written by the Yazata, but he cannot understand it. He proposes we study the book, and in exchange, use it to bring more Sicarii into this world. He wishes to reopen the portal we worked so hard to close? Why would he want more Sicarii unleashed, when his city was all but annihilated by them? His claim is that he has 4 Sakari males in good health, in captivity, but has no females in order to breed them with. In time, he offers an unmatched slave army. A slave army of demon soldiers. Very interesting. I suppose the king did not bring this up to me because he feared I would agree just to get my hands on that book. His proposal could solve our own problem. We could get our own fresh supply of Sakari females to study and determine if Shayatina is simply incapable of reproduction. Refugio grins, closing his manuscript. Draft a reply for the message hawks, and place the king's seal upon it. We must get that book at all costs. Anshar Realm, World of Denai. Captain Aniel of the 6th Choir paces back and forth, awaiting the full report of his scouts from the Kishar Realm. Having received a full briefing on the events at Kataltakuk by the Hashmalim tasked with overseeing the planet, Aniel immediately dispatched a team of elite scouts to locate each of the Sakari that escaped the city 4 months earlier. In a flash of light, the scouts return, utilizing the power of Shunkonido teleportation. What have you discovered? Aniel asks. The city of Levant keeps 1 female and 9 male Sakari alive. The city of Kataltakuk holds another 5 males. 16 Sakari hide in the wilderness between Kataltakuk and the desert of Yota. 31 Sakari still breathe in Kishar? Aniel asks, surprised. He is stunned that after all of the death and destruction the Sakari have caused, humans refuse to eradicate them. That is not counting the 3 imprisoned in magical containers. The strongest of the Sakari could not be killed by the humans, and were locked away. Tytil, Biznail, clear out the Sakari hiding in the mountains near the desert. Shanail, Daniel, go to Levant and kill the captive Sakari, and any humans that interfere with your mission. I will go to Kataltakuk and find out why they, of all humans, have decided against killing the remaining Sakari. Is that wise? Tytil asks. We are not supposed to make ourselves known to the humans anymore. Not after all that trouble with the Grigori and Siring Nephilim. Those were special circumstances, Aniel says. Trust me, the Sarim would all agree on this course of action. We simply cannot wait for their deliberation. This is a dire situation and time is of the essence. The longer we wait to act, the higher the chances of some of the Sakari escaping becomes. If we lose even a single Sakari, there exists the possibility that they can find a way to reproduce. We do not know what the offspring in humans and Sakari could become. It is possible that, like their mixing with our kind, a hybrid of human and Sakari could become a creature far more dangerous than either species alone. The others offer no further objections and vanish in a flash of light. Kataltakuk. The rogue Yazata and Grigori deserters Cedrion and Gadril observe from afar as the 2 members of the 6th Choir appear at the mountain's base. The Sakari inside immediately sense the strong auras, even while suppressed, and prepare for a life or death battle. Sakari invaders, this is not your world, Tytil shouts with a voice that makes the ground tremble. Surrender, or your deaths will be guaranteed. Gadril looks to his superior and companion and whispers. Maintaining a small Sakari presence on this world will be useful in keeping the humans in chaos. Agreed. We cannot allow them to be wiped out from the Kishar realm. I have too many plans for this world to have our former brothers drop in and screw things up. Cedrion uses Shunkonido to teleport in front of the other Yazata and drive his black-bladed sword up through Teotihuacan's armor. Biznail draws his own sword, but Gadril appears behind him and grabs him by the hair. pulling his head back as he runs his sword across the Yazata's throat. In seconds, both of the Yazata sent to kill the remaining Sakari and Kataltakuk have themselves been slain. Aniel never counted on the two Grigori lurking in the area and serving as protectors of the enemy. With their Warna rings equipped, Cedrion and Gadril are completely invisible to the senses of the other Yazata. "I have a new announcement for you, Sakari," Cedrion shouts. "Rape, pillage and kill, but maintain a low profile. Do not draw too much attention, lest humans or worse will hunt you down." The Grigori banish, off to protect the other Sakaris. Levant. "I will not let you take them away from me," Refugio shouts. Daniel draws his sword and slashes through the guards, protecting the building housing the male Sakari. "This was not a suggestion. We have come to purge the world of the Sakari." Refugio stops the Yazata from entering with a wall of flame. "You dare turn magic on us?" Daniel pivots, extending his sword at Refugio. The magician runs through thousands of symbols in his mind, overlaying them in a complex network, when the presence of Daniel pushes through into his consciousness and blocks his ability to visualize and summon any spells. Daniel is about to pierce the magician when a chakram spins towards him. The Yazata dodges with Shunkonido and watches as his attacker draws the spinning blades back into his hands. "Leave the humans to their own mistakes. Stop getting involved," Gadriel says, replacing his chakram with the black-bladed sword given to him by the Devilnay. "Grigori filth." Daniel draws his sword and leaps at Gadriel with an attack. The two clash blades violently, leaving Chaniel to deal with the Sakari. "Kill them all and be done with it," Daniel shouts, blocking an advancing blow from Gadriel. Chaniel backhands Refugio into a wall and extends his hands as he calls forth the element of fire. "Aginestra Ahura!" Chaniel shouts, erupting the entire building into a storm of flames that melts through even the stone. Refugio struggles to negate the spell, but Ahura-level spells are far above that of humanity, and able to be performed only by divine beings. The male Sakari being held inside the building are quickly killed, and he turns his attention to another building, as he senses the spirit of Shayatina. "No!" Cedrion shouts, driving his sword down through Chaniel's collar and into his chest. "I cannot allow you to kill that one!" Cedrion hides his frustration at not being able to stop Chaniel from killing the other Sakari by brutally cleaving through the Yazata's body. Daniel senses his comrade's death and is filled with rage, slashing at Gadril with increased fervor, and manages to cut his forearm. Gadril pushes Daniel back by exerting his aura, but the other Yazata manages to roll around the pulse to the side and lunge in with a thrusting stab. Gadril blocks with his chakram, grinding his teeth together as he strains to hold his opponent back. "Stop toying with him! We still have the others to deal with," Cedrion growls, regaining his composure. He stands over the black smear and charred armor that once belonged to Chaniel. Gadril curses under his breath at his companion's chastisement, not actually toying with his opponent, but truly having a difficult time in defeating him. The two continue to clash blades, evenly matched. Cedrion watches his subordinate, but does not step in to assist. He believes that it is for Gadril's own good to overcome his weakness and win on his own. If he continues to hold his hand, he does not think that Gadril will ever become powerful enough to truly be able to assist him when the time comes to face even stronger enemies like the Arche or the Sarum. Finally, Daniel makes a mistake, overstepping a redirection swing and exposing himself for the briefest of instants. Gadril thrusts his sword through the Yazata's throat, ending the fight in one stroke. "About time," Cedrion says, looking down at Daniel's body before the light within it erupts and leaves behind only burnt armor and a shadow seared into the ground. I am not the one who failed to keep his opponent from killing the Sicarii, Gadriel says, applying an ointment to his forearm from a small pouch hidden under his armor. You were awfully cocky today, Cedrion scoffs. Today has been a good day. I'm sorry that you cannot see it in the same way that I do. His companion laughs. We have returned to the notice of our pursuers, Cedrion says. The Sarum will now realize that we are associated with keeping the Sicarii alive in this world. They will send more kill squads. Oh, Gadriel says, losing his smile. I had not thought about that. That is why I am the leader and you are my subordinate, Cedrion growls. Now, come on, we have many things to do. In a flash of light, both Yazata teleport away. Wilderness, east of Kataltakuk. The journey from Kataltakuk is smooth, and the trio of Enkidu, Tarvin, and Lianlim make good time. Stopping as little as possible, they pause only long enough to rest both their horses and themselves. Reaching the river of Uzal in only little over a day, they make brief camp and walk along the banks and shallows to collect clams and other crustaceans and mollusks. When the opportunity arises, an occasional frog or turtle is taken. Eat your fill today, because most of this meat will not travel well. River dwellers do not last and rot quickly and spoil. We will keep the clams alive within water as long as we can, and cook them at next nightfall, Enkidu says. Lianlim stops them, slowly drawing her bow. Enkidu sees up ahead what has caught her interest and nods. The girl silently nocks an arrow and lets it fly, bearing deep into the heart of a large aquatic rodent. God is good, Enkidu smiles. This meat will serve us well in the days to come. Sitting at the fire in the evening, as they eat frog, turtle, and clam, and the prized nutria, Lianlim tries to learn all that she can from the experienced warrior priest. How did you become so proficient with a sword? She asks, recalling how easily Enkidu cut down the people of Tug, who meant to sacrifice her to the god Mammon. Was it really the Yazata that trained you? Enkidu nods. I received a great deal of my training from Fausto, and even Eskiel to some extent. But once I became old enough to wield my great-grandfather's sword, I began training under Master Hoyles. Hoyles. That is the name of the Yazata that trained you. She is fascinated by Enkidu's past, and wishes one day for herself to be trained in a similar fashion. Master Hoyles is what is known as a Hashmalim. It is his duty to make sure the beings under his care do not befall great catastrophes. Each human has a guardian called a Fervashis that watches over them, and our world has a Hashmalim to watch over it as a whole. But he took a special interest in you, Tarvin interrupts. He did, Enkidu replies. Once I claimed Tiavan as my birthright, Master Hoyles made himself known to me, and I began the next phase of my training as both a warrior and a servant of the Creator. May I see it? Lianlim asks, her eyes sparkling with intrigue. Enkidu laughs, unsheathing his sword and handing it over. Lianlim is surprised at how heavy the weapon is. I can barely hold it up. She strains. Even without her injuries, she is doubtful that she could ever use such a heavy weapon in a fight. That is the true power of a Yazatan blade. The heavier they are, the stronger you must become to wield one with ease. It's not made of iron metal like our swords, Tarvin observes. Enkidu shakes his head. The hilt and guard are made of many metals, melted together in fire and strengthened again and again by cooling them and reheating them before enchanting it with magic. The Yazata call it an alloy. The blade itself, however, is made of a crystal harder than any material we have in our realm. The Yazata build their entire cities with this crystal. Lanlim tries to swing the sword, but drops the weapon in pain, as it puts too much of a stress on her injuries. I'm sorry, she says apologetically. I did not mean to drop it. When you have recovered more, I will show you how to better use a sword like this, if you would like. Lanlim nods excitedly. Very much so. Ever since the two of you saved me, and I witnessed you battle firsthand, I have wanted nothing more than to become your student, and learn all that you know. Officially, you must understand that I cannot take you on as a student. Enkidu sees the excitement and fire in the girl's eyes die instantly. But I have seen how you handle yourself under pressure, and the accuracy of your aim. Were it not for your arrows, likely none of our messengers would have escaped Catal to cook that night. You are brave and capable. Tradition be damned, I shall do whatever I can to enhance the skills that you already possess. Do you really think it wise to teach a woman to be a warrior priest, when it is clearly forbidden by our laws? Tarvin asks angrily. The Creator made both men and women to serve him. Who am I to obstruct the calling of any person to his service? She is already the most skilled rider and archer in our city. With a little work, she will be the best swordswoman as well. Lanlim beams with pride. Thank you, Master. Enkidu laughs. None of that. I am the master of no one. While I serve God, no one can serve me. Tarvin scoffs, jealous of Lanlim's extra attention. It is he who has been Enkidu's traveling companion. It was his father who selected him to join the warrior priest and learn from him. Who is this stable girl to come in and push him aside? It is he who should be receiving private lessons from the great hero of Catal to cook. Angered, Tarvin leaves the campfire to go for a walk and cool his temper. Do not tarry far, Enkidu warns. It is quite easy to become lost in unfamiliar terrain. Tarvin waves off his warning in dismissal. He does not like being treated like a child. He came this way once before with Enkidu, and wasn't once treated like his inferior. Is he being brushed aside on purpose because of Lanlim's presence? Why is he even on this journey if Lanlim is so special and flawless? I do not believe Tarvin is pleased with either of us, Lanlim says. He looks at me with contempt. His father was a good friend to my own, and to me also. Tannen thought that by coming with me, I could smooth the rough edges of his son and teach him valuable lessons. Enkidu sighs deeply. I fear, however, that there is a darkness within Tarvin that I am not skillful enough to expel. He yearns for the pleasures of the world, and I do not feel his heart is truly for saving Cataltakuk or her people. With his weak will, we will be tempted by what Dwarka has to offer, and succumb. I will not, Lanlim promises. Whatever is set before me in temptation, I shall not fall into its snares. Enkidu nods. I believe you. That is why, when the time comes, you must take whatever we have gained from Dwarka and flee. I fear that Tarvin will betray us, and put his flesh before our people. Lanlim is surprised by this harsh accusation. I have grown up with Tarvin. I do not believe that he is a bad person. He would not betray us. I am not saying that he is a bad person. I am simply saying that I sense in him a longing for things that should not be. He is excited to reach Dwarka, and that troubles me. I hope that you are wrong about him, she whispers. So do I. If I am not, it could be my life on the line. Many in Dwarka want my head. Should the wrong people learn I am in the city, our mission will end in complete failure. Enkidu stealthily hands her some jewels from the temple's coffer. Once we arrive in Dwarka, break off from us, and do not lead on that you are traveling with us. Use the jewels to buy information if you must, and locate the surplus stores of the city. Report the details of the storage site to me. There's a fountain near the bazaar, outside of the temple of Enkidu Chapter. We will meet back up there, on the second night of our arrival. You do not intend to deal with Dwarka, do you? I will attempt talks, but I know how the city operates, and they will not help us in the end. I pray that you are wrong about everything, lay in the midst with fear and sadness. Prayers are always welcome, Enkidu says, trying to smile, despite the heavy burdens upon him. But sometimes we are left to deal with things on our own. I do not always understand, but I continue to move forward. If I grow weak, the Creator will lift me up and carry me forward to my destination. No matter what, I will not allow Kitaltakuk to perish. Kitaltakuk. Captain Aniel materializes near Kitaltakuk, unaware that his assignments have failed. All 4 of the Yazata tasked with destroying the Sakari presences have been killed. He tilts his head, sensing the location of Baron's gathered prisoners, and wonders why they are still alive. Humans will never learn not to meddle with forces beyond their capacity to control. Aniel sighs, shaking his head with pity and disgust. As Aniel moves towards the cave housing the Sakari, he is nearly decapitated by a spinning chakram from out of nowhere. The captain raises his sword, taking the force of the weapon down into his hands and deflecting the metallic disc off to the side. Cedrion appears behind him, coming down on Aniel's shoulder with his own sword, while Gadriel rushes in with a thrust from the front. Using Shunkonido, Aniel teleports away, leaving the other 2 Yazata to duplicate the evasion technique in order to prevent collision with each other. "Stand down!" Aniel shouts. "I am Captain Aniel of the 4th Choir. I was tasked with killing the Sakari remaining here in the Kishar realm." Aniel appears announcing his identification, but it makes no difference to Grigori, who no longer hold rank or title. Cedrion instantly materializes behind the captain and tries to decapitate him, causing Aniel to again teleport away. The 3 Yazata repeat this deadly dance, flashing all around the landscape. Unable to stay in one spot long enough to cast any spells, Aniel is kept on the defensive. One mistake and he knows that he is dead. As soon as Aniel reappears, he slashes his sword and spins, hoping to catch his attacker. Cedrion immediately flickers away upon materialization, narrowly being caught by the blade. "Quick thinking," Cedrion compliments, appearing beside Gadriel several hundred feet away from Aniel. "I assumed it would be only moments before you slipped." "Who are you? Why do you attack me and risk failure of my mission?" "The failure of your mission is exactly why we attack you. Are we not on some kind of wanted list? We are the 2 most notorious defectors in Ainshar's long history," Cedrion brags. "Grigori," Aniel growls, holding his sword steady. "You are the 2 traitors we have been looking for all this time." Cedrion nods, delicately brushing the worn ring on his finger. "Operating in plain sight, yet you were never able to stop us. You really are a pathetic lot. When the choir is divided, I truly believe the best and the brightest abandoned Anshar." Cedrion visualizes the symbols representing the elements of wind and fire, and combines them with spirit into a sword. Now wrapped in violently spinning flames, Cedrion swings his weapon quickly several times, forcing Aniel to teleport away again in avoidance. "All you are is good at dodging," Cedrion mocks. "To hold the same title as you is shameful." Aniel teleports behind Cedrion and kicks him in the back of the knee. As the Grigori's leg bends, Aniel pivots with his lead elbow and slams it full force into Cedrion's temple. Vision blurred and head throbbing, Cedrion stumbles and loses his focus on maintaining the spell cast on his sword. Using Shunkonido, Aniel flashes in close to the Grigori and kicks him in the chest with a sidekick that sends him crashing to the ground. Aniel drops down, attempting impalement, but Cedrion gathers enough of his wits to teleport away and reappear inches behind his previous position. As soon as Aniel's blade connects with the earth, Cedrion swings horizontally at his back. Faster by an instant, Aniel teleports to safety and the two resume their stalemate. "You hold no titles," Aniel says, casting enchantments on his own blade for increased durability, sharpness, and leeching ability to convert damage inflicted into stamina restored. "You forfeited all rank and title the moment you abandoned our brothers on the battlefield." "I refused to accept that a monkey had become the Creator's favorite. We existed for millennia and proved our worth and loyalty, yet he gave the humans everything. They murdered each other within their first family unit. Only a full purging of their offensive species can ever settle that injustice. A lecture from a coward like you will do no good. Had you fought and bled with us rather than against, you would see the hubris you possess." "Are we going to continue fighting or prattle on with this meaningless banter?" Cedrion groans. While enduring Cedrion's taunting, Aniel is busy weaving together the spell symbols for various elements for binding until he is able to breathe a simple command. Recklessly, Cedrion attacks head-on and falls into Aniel's trap. The rogue realizes all too late that he has made a possible fatal mistake. Cedrion's movement is immediately stopped and with great pain. Light catches the hidden wires that now entangle the rogue like a spider's web. Each wire is sharp enough to cut through stone, and strengthened by magic to be able to hold the Grigori in place. "Very tricky!" Cedrion winces. The very act of speaking painfully tightens the wires all around his throat. Were he to make any move, he'd be shredded into 1,000 pieces. "You pushed your luck too far," Aniel says. "Had you only used the Warner to hide, we likely would never have found you. Instead, you had to keep returning to the humans to torture them again and again." "I would not define our actions as torture," Cedrion argues. "We enlightened humanity with universal truths and power. It is not our fault their feeble primate minds cannot handle such evolution. The humans were meant to be ignorant of the worlds and truths beyond their comprehension. You have done the very thing Satan did by opening the eyes of Eve to good and evil." "That I cannot deny. In most regards, I would never view Sataniel as a role model. Yet he was correct in that. Hiding humanity behind a veil of ignorance is an injustice to all beings. While we must tarry on with the universal truths weighing upon us, the Creator blessed humanity with paradise, a carefree existence with no worries, pain, or suffering. We fought in wars with our own brothers, while he delighted in seeing the monkeys walking around upright, eating fruit and giving animals ridiculous names. We have merely brought balance to the universe. By bringing humanity humble, they are no longer some protected collectible. We have removed their precious shine and smeared them with their own filth. In time, God too will see how very not special humanity is. I will admit that I never had much love for the humans, but the Creator holds them dear to his heart, and it is treasonous to sabotage them in this manner," Aniel says. "A loyalist to the very end," Cedrion mocks. "Even when his decisions make no sense, you blindly follow him." He winces, the wires cutting into his flesh. "Do you really think yourself so highly that you believe your opinions are more valid than those of the Creator? He does have a lengthy record of poor decisions. Everything he has done since creating the humans has been in error. Rather than putting so much time and energy into those unworthy creatures, he should have devoted himself to us, his greatest accomplishment." Gadriel flashes to Aniel's side, putting his blade against the Seraphim's throat. "Release your trap or lose your head." Aniel grins, flexing his wrist to tighten the wires around Cedrion. You make one more move and your companion will be cut to pieces. Do you think his fate concerns me? Loyalty is not something that we carried with us from Anshar. You cannot bluff me. I sense the concern for your comrade's safety. Without a word, Gadriel thrusts his sword into Aniel's throat, intending to end him with a single blow. I do not bluff. Aniel teleports away, holding a hand to his bleeding neck. Using Dukan Hele's magic, the Seraphim focuses his energy to heal the wound before too much of his essence leaks out and ends his life. That was reckless, Cedron complains, rubbing his own throat as the wires vanish. If he had been faster than you expected, I could have been killed. Gadriel scoffs at Cedrion's whining. I watched your battle closely enough to properly gauge his reaction speed. Cedrion shrugs. Oh well. The assassination teams are all but dealt with as soon as we kill him. The Sakari survivors should have ample time now to drop from the Seraphim's notice. Aniel is merely a captain, Gadriel says. His general will not let the issue die, especially after we've killed several of his choir members. You speak to me as if I've already been dispatched, Aniel growls, holding his sword out. I shall slay the both of you and accomplish my duty. Aniel rushes, slashing at Cedrion with a combo of furious swings. Gadriel tries to attack from behind, but Aniel pivots, slamming a wave of wind magic into the rogue's chest. Garuda Nostra! Cedrion shouts, evading the sword slash and then thrusting his own wind energy into Aniel's chest. The Yazata's armor indents, and he is sent sprawling backwards in pain. You wield both fire and wind equally deadly. Elemental magic is not something that could ever be considered difficult to master. Even human mages can perform similar feats. Aniel stands up, grinning. True, but I doubt that a human would be skilled enough to conceal a spell within a spell. Cedrion laughs. I was not sure that you would notice. Consumed briefly by a blinding light, Aniel purges himself of Cedrion's attack. A low-level curse, but an effective delivery method. What would have happened had I not been aware of your deceit? Cedrion shrugs, still smiling. Who can say? Gadriel flashes above Aniel, hoping to find a blind spot, but the Seraphim's defense is superb. Wings of energy condense into a plated roof, blocking any aerial attack. Instantly deciding there is no opening, Gadriel teleports away to his enemy's left, then right, thwarted by condensed energy armor at every turn. You have a remarkably stubborn defensive ability, Cedron says. Even I can see no opening through which to attack. Aniel remains tense and ready for an attack at any moment. Had you worried less about childish rebellion and more on training, you would have advanced beyond your current state of power. Cedrion laughs. Have you forgotten that I too held the rank of captain? This causes Aniel to laugh even louder, drowning out Cedrion and angering the Grigori. The captains of old are nothing by our current standards of power. If judged by the rankings of your era, I would be a general. Gadriel attacks from behind, drawing Aniel's condensed armor to form a shield. The Grigori slashes furiously at the wall, unable to form a single dent or scratch upon the surface. Gadriel uses Shinkonito to blitz Aniel, attacking from every conceivable angle before flashing to a new location to recoup. The Seraphim is able to keep up, defending against each blow. This focus on me cannot be maintained so long, as Gadriel remains on the offensive. Cedrion observes, finally glimpsing several brief openings for attack in Aniel's defense. As Gadriel continues to attack, Cedrion slashes upward and sends a shockwave of energy out like a crashing surf. The energy wave hits Aniel from behind, shattering his energy armor. Aniel screams out in pain as the energy tears through his defense, and deal severe damage to his exposed back. Fighting side by side someone you can rely upon is something that I have learned to be invaluable, Cedrion says, standing over the wounded captain. Your underlings had no discipline, and the gap between them and you was too great. Gadriel, on the other hand, has been trained to not only be my understudy, but also my equal in combat. Kill him before more of them arrive, Gadriel urges, irritated. Cedrion nods. I believe our work here is done for now. The efforts of our former brethren not to allow the Sicarii to take root in this world speaks volumes. If we are able to not only keep the Sicarii alive in this world, but have them flourish, we will provide a much-needed check to the human problem that I foresee only worsening over time. Gadriel is unable to disguise his hatred for the humans, and angers at their very mention. The Sicarii army could not defeat even a small region of human settlements. Now that the Sicarii are rare, what threat do you believe they could possibly pose? Patience, my friend. We must allow fruit to ripen before plucking it from the tree. Gadriel scoffs, sheathing his sword. You put too much faith in him. Sane is no deliverer or saint. He was an arrogant fool who went in way over his head and was left without physical form and banished as a result. I shall not allow myself to end up in a similar fate. Do not be mistaken, Gadriel. I am no blind follower of Sane. I merely see his endgame and currently believe that it aligns with our own goals. Should they ever fall out of alignment, trust me that our blades will be the first to be felt by that manipulator. Seizing upon his enemies being preoccupied in conversation, Aniel flashes behind Cedrion, but the rogue blocks without turning, and himself flashes to a new location. The Yazata wage a teleportation battle that no mortal eye could follow. Faster than light, they flash all over, with the only sounds being the occasional collision of their swords. When it is clear that neither fighter has an edge in speed, they break off to reevaluate their tactics. Aginestra, Ahura! Cedrion shouts, sending a powerful wave of flame magic at his foe. Aniel uses ice magic to freeze the spell, shattering it into millions of tiny shimmering fragments. Magical chains snake around Cedrion's ankles, catching him by surprise. I, too, can hide spells within other spells, Aniel says proudly. Cedrion struggles to move, but finds that he is unable. What is this binding? The rogue asks in concern. Even his spellcraft ability has been muted. Saitos, cadena de viscere, Aniel says. It was devised after you defected. You will not be able to move or draw together any form of energy. Basically, you are now paralyzed. So now what? You cart me off to your superiors, go collect your pat on the head before running off to do more of the Arche's dirty work. After I secure you more properly, Aniel says, 3 more layers of binding should be enough of a safeguard. Gadriel darts in between them, using his black sword to cut through the binding chains and free Cedrion. You have my thanks, Cedrion grins, conjuring a small flame in his hand to test whether his ability to spellcraft has returned. I believe that this battle has gone on far too long. Cedrion looks over to Gadriel and nods, setting in motion a plan worked out in advance. Should an opponent ever prove too difficult to kill solo, they agreed that a shared victory would be better than a mutual defeat. Gadriel unleashes a wave of magical fire that causes Aniel to leap high into the air to avoid. Cedrion attacks from behind, and Aniel twists, clashing blades as they both fall. Aniel's sword begins to crack, fractured by the black blade created by the Devilnay. As the sword is finally split in two, Cedrion's own weapon works its way through Aniel's armor and deep into his flesh. Aniel teleports away in a panic, holding his shoulder in shock. Was that your best attempt at slaying me? Aniel coughs, pulling his hand away for a moment to see his inner light leaking out from the wound. "No, I merely provided a distraction strong enough for him to finish you," Cedrion boasts. Aniel tries to teleport away, but Gadriel is already touching him, causing them both to vanish. A moment later, they reappear, with Gadriel's blade extended from Aniel's chest. "You fight with no honor," Aniel coughs. Cedrion appears at his side and presses his sword to Aniel's neck. "And which of us is about to die?" Before the Yazata can answer, he is decapitated by Gadriel. "You play around too much," Gadriel scoffs. Cedrion straightens, annoyed by his companion's lack of sport. "There are few things in life that can bring me any enjoyment. Must you ruin them for me?" Saying no more, Gadriel leaves the area using Shinkon Ito teleportation. Cedrion sighs, following him begrudgingly. Levant. Refugio rummages through the ruins of the building that housed his Sakari captives. The bodies are burnt beyond salvaging any viable genetic material, and a good deal of his notes and research is lost forever. He curses the situation, wishing he had been able to avoid such a massacre. Until the moment the Yazato appeared, he did not entirely believe in the beings. As powerful as he believed himself to be, the Yazata revealed his magic to be amateur in comparison. "I am ruined," he whispers to himself, filled with despair. "The appearance of the Sakari was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Now all is lost." Shaitina approaches him from behind. Her steps are as silent as snowfall, and the strange purring hiss of her voice frightens Refugio as it startles him from his focus on the ruins. "Everything that you learned from me is gone?" she asks. "Do you not have knowledge still locked up in here?" She touches a clawed finger to Refugio's forehead. The man tries not to tremble from her touch. Unrestrained, Shaitina could kill him with the ease one might crush an insect. "I still know more of your kind than any man in this world." He tries to come off with confidence, like a predator. He does not want her to sense his fear and react. "How many men do you have wholly loyal to you?" She continues to ask him questions, speaking much more than usual. 200 that I can count on for support, whatever the cause." Shaitina nods, taking in his words carefully. "And what is the total number of soldiers that your king commands?" "You cannot suggest," Refugio asks, shocked at such a question. "Answer me, magician," the Sakari growls, baring her fangs. Refugio's mind races. He is confident that he can conjure a spell to bind the female, but in such close quarters, she may have enough time to kill him before he is successful. 6,000 horsemen, and another 10,000 soldiers that can be amassed at the summons of the king. "That is too many," Shaitina whispers. "Even infused with my blood, your men could not take on so many adversaries." "I would not dare challenge the king. My lord has always shown me favor, and been kind in my presence. I am not some lowly usurper or backstabbing mongrel." With speed, the Sakari grabs Refugio by the throat. "What are you doing?" Refugio coughs. The female Sakari tightens her grip, not allowing the man to draw in breath. "Listen carefully, human. I will not continue to be a plaything for your experimentation, or for your soldiers to bed. My dignity has been shattered and dragged through the gutters that man and beast alike relieve themselves upon. Gather your 200, and tonight we shall flee this city. You will locate me a nation that can be conquered by our number, and there I shall take up residence and rule. You and your men will come into my blood, and become my warriors. In time, our numbers will grow enough for us to challenge other kingdoms. We will fulfill the mission that Queen Inyana was unable. She releases the man and he drops to the dirt, coughing. Do not think to challenge me with your magic. I am aware of your skill, and have observed and studied you as much as you have I. I have tasted your flesh, and you have tasted mine. Do you think that I could not break your magic with that knowledge? You could not defeat me now if you tried. With your blood within me, I can easily destroy any spell you send against me. My blood? Refugio does not understand what she is talking about. He does not recall any time the Sakari biting him. He does not still see how she could possess enough of his blood to dispel his magic. I can see the confusion on your face, Shaitina says, grinning. You have cause to rejoice, for you have inadvertently solved the greatest question eluding you about my kind. Our species are in fact compatible genetically, for I now carry within me your offspring.